What is up, everyone? Chrisgeo here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. I was looking at this pyramid information that has been coming out over the past few days about this vast underground city that they have found underneath the Giza Plateau that's connected to the pyramids. I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. It's been all over. I was kind of lining it up with some of our experiences in Egypt as well. I've got some footage here that I may play of inside the Queen's Chamber from 2018. Now, the Queen's Chamber has been locked off to the public for a long time, but we were able to gain access to it and take some really awesome footage. We've got the whole footage at our Patreon, patreon.com/btvtribe. It's unedited. I just uploaded it just now, and we might play some footage also about from the underground chamber as well, because it's not about just the footage and actually seeing it, but it's also the thoughts that we had and the conversations we were having during that time when we were down there, which lines up perfectly with this new discovery here. So what's going on here with these structures underneath? There's a vast underground city below Egypt's Giza pyramids, scientists' wild theory claims, but experts are very quick to debunk it. And it's funny because as I was pulling up a few more articles about for this particular show, I was seeing articles that say there's no credible evidence. Snopes says there's no credible evidence of any of these discoveries, which I find to be actually kind of comical, because they only call it credible evidence when it comes from their sources. When it comes from any sources that are not ordained by them, then they don't call it credible evidence. I'll give you a quick example real quick. I was messing with AI the other day, and I was typing in some stuff. Hey, was there an ayahuasca ritual at the pyramid? And it says, no, there's no credible ayahuasca ritual at the pyramid at all. And I said, okay, well, I've got video of me doing ayahuasca in the pyramid. What do you think about that? Well, it doesn't come from a credible source. Okay, but I got the video to show it. Well, it still doesn't come from the credible source. And I said, okay, so what's a credible source? And it said, any mainstream media outlet, this and that, blah, 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 blah. So that kind of gave me some insight into how this is looking as well. These researchers found this large city underneath. And even back in 2018, when we were over there, this was kind of known that there's a huge underground structure under there. And I don't know if we have this on video or not, but I remember we were at a door and I was trying to find somebody who had a key to that door that could let us into these underground tunnels, and nobody would open that door. That was a door that just simply would not open. But at the time, we were even talking about how there's a vast complex under there, and in order to get from the Sphinx to the pyramid or inside of the pyramid, you've got to go underground through this complex and then go up into the pyramid. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the connection that I kind of found with Enoch and Thoth and all of this, and the pillars that were just discovered. I don't hear anybody talking about that, so I'm going to go over that briefly, and this is probably going to be a shorter show, and then I'll get more into it in the coming days. I've been slammed with so many different projects right now that my mind's been all over the place, but I need to take a moment and focus with my tribe here about the Egypt energy and what's going on. It's amazing that this is all happening right now, because if you've heard the couple of shows that I've done over the past couple months, you'll see it's all about energy shifting. It's all about alignment. It's all about stepping into this new dimension and stepping into this new timeline. And then boom, here we go. We have like a whole new discovery going on over there at the very source of my journey anyways, and the journey that we've all been on here at BTV. So let's let a few people gather in the chat room for a minute. I'm going to play an old song that I actually recorded inside of the King's Chamber. Inside of the King's Chamber. It is called The Ibis Has Returned. So yeah, y'all check this out and I'll be right back. This is for all of the BTV family out there. We have done something historical today.
For 20 minutes, and that's when it begun. I saw with 20/20 vision what was just beyond the veil, and it was instant activation on a consciousness scale. I stared it down eye to eye as I stepped out the matrix. Now the sign in the sky is revealing the fakeness like a sinister script full of syntax errors. I'm creating a glitch, another impact center in the heart of the system. This holographic prison. Now the spiders in the sky know the ibis is risen. The spiders in the sky know the ibis is risen. Now the spiders in the sky know the ibis is risen. And back on a mission with a psychedelic vision that was etched in the stones by the ancient Egyptians with perfect precision and a cosmic alignment to bring me back to this point. Now it's time to rewind it.
Arise, my children of the light. The veil of the night now burns. The brotherhood of darkness falls. The ibis has returned. Oh yeah.
When the children of men formulated a plan to use fire as a weapon and infected the land. That's where my journey began. From the land of Chem to the land of illusion. To this moment we stand against the machines, weaving digital dreams. Got us tied up in this web of never-ending schemes. And NPCs taking over the game, all connected to the hive mind of the mainframe. As above, so below. Now it's time to let them know. Let the spiders in the sky know the ibis is risen. The spiders in the sky know the ibis is risen. Let the spiders in the sky know the ibis is risen. Now let it be written and let it be done. Let the wisdom of the ancients call the chosen ones. With a firm resolution and a focused intention, you will find your way out through the inner dimension.
Arise, my children of the light. The veil of the night now burns. The brotherhood of darkness falls. The ibis has returned. Oh yeah. Arise, my children of the light. The veil of night now burns. It burns. The brotherhood of darkness falls. The ibis has returned. Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, chrisgeo coming to you from way beyond the veil. We're here, and we just wanted to show you the descent now, as we're descending to the King's Chamber. From the King's Chamber, back down to the land of mortals. Anyways, they're pressing us.
We really gotta get out of
We're
here.
not only beyond the veil, but we're also beyond our time too. So love you,
Yes,
and
love you
we'll
guys.
make more updates here soon. From the King's Chamber. the fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. All right, let's jump into this. Going right back to Egypt. I love how everything is coming full circle. Of course, the new discoveries that they found underneath the pyramids. It's so cool. It's so cool to sit there and analyze it. And I know everybody's been covering it, and so I was just kind of like sitting back and just kind of watching and seeing how everything unfolds. But it's a pretty cool discovery. Now, I'm sure you know, but I'm just going to go over this just real quick. In recent years, the SAR imaging has revealed a massive network of underground structures beneath the Giza Plateau, including 2 kilometers of subterranean tunnels and chambers, massive cubic formations. Some theorized it to be machine-like in design. 8 vertical cylinder shafts, each 650 meters deep, surrounded by spiraling staircases. Some anomalies detected at depths of 1,200 meters, far deeper than traditional archaeologists have excavated or have even reached. There's a lot of controversy around this, and the mainstream media scurrying scurrying a lot to say, hey, I see people are getting interrupted by ads. Let me turn those off. It's a default setting that we have here. I don't give a shit about the ads. So, all right. So anyways, the mainstream media has been kind of scurrying just to kind of discredit this, and it's like, why? What's the point of this? I think it's because it just completely flips Egyptology on its head. There was a marking up there. If you go into the King's Chamber and you go all the way to the top, there was supposedly one marking in there that said this was built by Khufu. And they let a film crew in there before we even went in there. And so they were like really cautious with what we were doing. They were like, no cameras, no this, no that. And we're like, well, they're still taking our cameras. We have small cameras. We didn't have like big videography cameras and stuff like that. But some researchers went, or some documentary filmmakers went in there, and they took a piece of that carving and they analyzed it and found out that the dates didn't match up. The carbon date didn't match up. But they've been trying to spin this narrative that this was a burial chamber for Khufu and all that. And when you walk into this structure, you know this is not a burial chamber. This is not some grand monument that a pharaoh designed. This had a purpose. This was something else. What is that purpose? That's still to be determined, but it's really interesting to dig into this, because when we were there, and I might play this video of the Queen's Chamber again, we have that over at our Patreon, patreon.com/BTV Tribe, where we're walking around the Queen's Chamber, not the King's Chamber. There's 3 chambers. There's the subterranean chamber, then there's the Queen's Chamber, then there's the King's Chamber. We're walking around the Queen's Chamber and we're talking about this, and we're like, this is not a burial site. There's nothing in there to suggest it's a burial site. As a matter of fact, when you go to other pyramids, which other pyramids were legitimately burial sites, you find a lot of iconography. Especially the one thing that they were really big on was the duat, the sky. The duat was up at the top because that's where the pharaohs ascended to. So everything was all marked out, and you'd have hieroglyphs all over the place showing the history of the pharaoh, what he did, his accomplishments, all that, different gods and goddesses. There is not a single marking inside of the Great Pyramid to suggest that it's a burial site. So that was the first thing that was tipped off, first and foremost. Second thing is you could tell that there was something going on there when we were down inside of the as a matter of fact, I think I'll pull that up real quick and play that as I'm talking. When we're down in the subterranean chamber, again, there was more conversation about, where do I have this? Here it is. There was more conversation about the fact that it seems to be a system, something from underground, like right here on the screen, what we have here. I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping all around here, but I'm just going with the energy here, not my notes. What we have here, this is the tunnel. They call this the bottomless pit, because when you go over here and you go down into that pit, it goes down into the depths. And they've got that all completely and totally blocked off. But you can tell that there was some kind of system. Water would come up in some way from into this chamber and flow into the other chambers, creating some kind of power source or energy source or something. And so when you're there and you feel it, you can feel the energy of a machine, not the energy of death, not the energy of a tomb, but the energy of a machine. And so looking at the structure that they found now and this big underground complex, it makes sense that the pyramid is the top of the structure. It's not the structure. It's just one of the top of the structure. What's underneath? It could be a library. It could be symbolic of what we've read about in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, what Hermes talked about. I know he talked about 8 pillars that I'm going to get into here in a little bit. It could be the 8 pillars, at least a representation of them. It's so amazing to see this discovery here. So as we go over here, I want to point out this one thing. Oh, there was another tunnel here that I didn't see on the map. Like, I wasn't familiar with this tunnel here, and this tunnel just kind of like caught me by surprise. Here, I'll play the audio so you guys can hear it real quick. If you've seen it before, forgive me, but it's kind of cool to go back and revisit all this stuff. And we'll get back on track here in just a moment.
Right here, there is another tunnel. The gate's been removed. I don't know where that tunnel goes. The question is, do we want to find out?
Well, it's beyond the veil.
It's beyond the veil. We gotta find out. Fuck it, right on. And what's interesting is what I was thinking at this time was like, what if there's booby traps? What if it's like Indiana Jones, like booby traps, and like the whole thing like comes down on me, or like there's a big pit or something. Even though I knew in my mind that there wouldn't be, but it's still, you had that apprehension and the claustrophobia from going into that tunnel. And it just stops. It stops at another point. And I think just recently they actually managed to get through that and found like a whole nother chamber there. So it was pretty cool. But we also have been, we dropped a bunch of crystals when we were there to kind of create this energetic grid. And that's what I wanted to get to here. You can see these crystals, and they're still there. They're, we put them in several places. We put them in the Temple of Hatshepsut. We put them in the Temple of Isis. We put them here. We were in the Temple of Sekhmet, and we climbed up and found a hole that you stick it in, and it falls down into the back. And so there's no way anybody's ever gonna mess with it.
In the subterranean chamber of the Great Pyramid.
So these are all like energetically connected points now, and that kind of goes with what they found underneath. And we've been sending these crystals out to our BTV tribe every time they order AyaLife. AYALife.com. I'll do a quick plug for that real quick, because we've got a couple things going on over there that are more like energy shifting, but it's the 99% pure CBD. We're moving over into the realms of Delta 9 and THCA and stuff like that. So we made one last batch of AyaLife, and we've got these crystals that we've been sending out that are all like energetically connected. If you go over here and hit relaunch, there's some really special deals for you guys and gals. There are 6 bottles for 1111. 3 bottles for $369 and 1 bottle for $28.88, trying to tap into those frequencies, the sacred alignment, the 1111 portal opening, the 369 Tesla's code, and the single dose of flow 8888. And I did this like a couple weeks ago, and we just launched it, and all of a sudden there's like this big discovery in Egypt which kind of ties all this in together, and people have used this. They said that their body's completely and totally aligned. I got back onto using it just recently, and somebody commented in the chat earlier, and they're like, wow, Chris, you're looking good. And I feel good. I feel alive. I feel energetically alive. So if you want to check that out, they usually go for like $59 a bottle, and we've been doing like the buy one get one frees, but this is like the final batch of Aya Life in this incarnation. So if you've been benefiting from that, the 99% pure CBD, which according to Dr. John Campbell, and he looked at the National Institute of Health, CBD has the potential to and this is according to the National Institute of Health, to fight off things like the fuck it, I'll just say it, the COVID. They did a study about how 99% pure CBD works for COVID. It works for different viruses and things like that, and just completely like resets the body. And we've been doing this since 2018, so we've been right on top of it. It's people have benefited so much from it. We've got nothing but great reviews and great reviews and great reviews. So if you want to check that out, get that while you can. And anybody international too, I did want to say this real quick. If you've been ordering internationally, as we move into the Delta 9 and THCA and stuff like that, we can't ship internationally anymore, at least not in the foreseeable future until we work out some stuff. So if you've been getting it internationally, get it now, because we may not be able to ship it out later, because we're just going to have so many more eyes on us when we release this stuff here. We have our Aya Life THCA vapes, and that's from a strain called Beyond the Veil that we have been growing ourselves. We've got the Delta 9 tinctures too, ready to go. We've got the Delta 9 gummies. The Beyond the Veil ones are 50 milligrams of Delta 9 THC. It's the real deal. It is better than the stuff that you get in the dispensary, but it's also legal in the sense that we can ship them out pretty much anywhere in the United States. And the way we do that is there's a loophole in the Farm Bill where you can have, I think it's 0.3% THC in a product. And, you know, when I first heard about this a couple of years ago, and I was like, I don't know if we should get into that, because 0.3% THC, that sounds very weak, right? But here's the kicker, right? I didn't even realize that this could be done like this. If your product weighs like these gummies, they each weigh 18 grams a piece. So having 50 milligrams of THC in there is like a mega dose that just like knocks you on your ass. Like I will not take 50 milligrams. Like these gummies are like meant to be like cut up and stuff like that. They will knock you on your ass more than dispensary stuff. Dispensaries are limited to 10 milligrams. These are 50 milligram gummies. We've got the THCA vapes and the THCA. I'm really excited about this because when I first heard about it, I was like, yeah, I don't know about it. And then when we started putting it together and going through the process and everything, I was like, wow, THCA is basically THC until you burn it. Well, it's THCA until you burn it and light it on fire. So you burn it and it turns into THC, like right there, like while you're smoking it. So while you're carrying it, it's got the THCA. While you're smoking it, it turns into THC. And it's just... I'm so happy. I'm so happy about this evolution. And of course, we've got some of our own personal strains and stuff like that. And we've also got another gummy that's going to be like 30 milligrams for, you know, that's the one that I recommend people get because the 50 one is going to knock you on your ass. Anyways, so that's coming up and we're trying to release that by 420. But we've changed the logo, you know, ascended, evolution, all that stuff. But if you want the original Aya Life, and if you want to get it at a really good price too, because this is basically cost, go over here, ayalife.com, ayalife.com/relaunch, and you'll see it, or just go to the website and you'll see relaunch up at the top, and you can scroll down and get these just for BTV. You don't need a coupon code or anything like that. And I think we have like, you know, maybe 150 bottles left or something like that. And once they're gone, because we're not going to be doing this packaging anymore or anything like that. And all the formulas are going to be elevated. So anyway, sorry. I feel like I went off on a tangent there, but I've been working on all this. Meanwhile, the freaking pyramids have just been freaking unlocking. Let me see. No. Somebody said no more Aya Life. No. This is the Aya Life in its original form. No. Aya Life is we're moving into other things. We still have the 99% pure CBD. It's an evolution of it that's coming up. This is the original formula, the original bottles and all that. No. Where it's not going anywhere. It's evolving into something far better. So we have stuff for everybody. We have also got some sleep formulas as well that we're releasing. You can see them in the photo here a little bit. Let me see if I can get a better shot of that. No, not in this photo. Because it's on the website, I had to put like small photos. But yeah, we've got a Delta 9 one. And we have a melatonin one as well that we're going to be releasing. Melatonin and CBD for people that don't want the THC. And then, of course, we have the THC ones and the original Aya Life, just in a different formula. But no, this is the last batch of this Aya Life that we've been doing since 2018 until the evolution. So grab that while you can. ayalife.com/relaunch. So, all right, I'm just hyped up. I'm really hyped up about this. All right, let's step back into this here. Where were we? So, and you get a crystal with it. I don't know if we're going to do crystals anymore, but yeah, you get a crystal with it that's energetically connected. So I think JF just said, hey, I just jumped on the 11-11-11 pack. Thank you so much, JF. And yeah, it's about energy. It's about tapping in. And the recurring message that I've been getting myself is going back and trying to understand, who was I back in 2018? Who was I in 2019? How have I changed from that point to now? Because the last 4 years have just been freaking wild. And tapping into that frequency and resonance. And it's so funny that this pyramid thing just happened at this point, because as I'm making these changes, as I'm evolving, and as I'm getting back into frequency, external things are also coming back into frequency too, coming back in alignment, because that's what it's all about. It's all about alignment. And so I've been doing a couple things. I've been hitting the gym again, and I'm freaking sore as hell. I can't even move my arms. But I started doing a carnivore diet too, which is freaking awesome. It's tough for like the first couple weeks, but after that, it's completely like. And I did this at a whim. I was just like, I was flipping through Facebook, and I was like, okay. I was just watching videos, and I saw Joe Rogan talking about it. I saw Jordan Peterson talking about it. It just like Facebook was sending me all these videos about it one after another. And I'm like, screw it. I love meat. Let's do it. And I think just in the few weeks that I've been doing it, somebody had mentioned earlier that you can start to see it and getting aligned with Aya Life and everything like that. I'll have more to show for it in the coming weeks for sure. Back to the topic here. Researchers claim they discovered a legendary halls of Amenti in a vast city beneath Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. A wild theory that has perplexed archaeological experts who dismiss the claims as fake news. Italian and Scottish scientists studying the pyramid say that the groundbreaking study has redefined the boundaries of satellite data analysis and archaeological exploration, according to Nicole, whoever that is. So getting into the esoteric stuff about this, and I guess while we do this, I'm going to go ahead and play this video in the background, if I can figure out how to open it. Yeah, and this is us inside of the Queen's Chamber. I'm not going to play the audio right now. I'll just keep it going in the background. But again, the audio is at patreon.com/btvtribe. But just to give you all guys some eye candy out there. So these pillars that they found under there. I mean, first of all, let's take a step back. The halls of Amenti. When we were at the temple of Hatshepsut doing our ritual, Cherie said that she went into the halls of Amenti and came back out. And she described very closely, and this is all documented too, very closely to what they discovered underneath the pyramid. So this could be a library. This could be a source of information. I think it's coming to surface now that there's all these energetic shifts as symbolic of what we're all experiencing in our own consciousness, at least if we're tapped in and doing the work. And I think everybody here has been. But the information coming back, the restoration of the ancient, the archaic, the last point of sanity that we had as a species. And we're waking up from this horrible, horrible, horrible nightmare, which has been this weird timeline, and shifting back in. And so this is kind of a message to the world out there. And it's funny because when we did our ayahuasca rituals here, she told us, or the energies told us, or the ayahuasca told us, whatever. Oh, here we go. You see this? This is the SAR machines. These are the scanners. All the stuff that they found all here, this is the actual equipment itself. So I remember we stumbled across this and we're like, oh, this is why they blocked off the Queen's Chamber, because they've been using that chamber as their headquarters for all of these scans. And so it was just really cool just to be right there alone on top of that. It was just me and Cherie, and that's it. Like, we told everybody, you've got to stay outside. So after we did our rituals, or before we did our rituals at the Temple of Isis, we got the message that the whole world is going to see what we've done. And I'm like, how is that even possible? You know, we've got a YouTube channel that's shadow banned. We're really not going to, it's not going to go that far. And it was like, look, just watch what happens. And right after we did the ritual, there was a 3-day flood in Giza, or in Cairo. And it was knocking down buildings. It was knocking down old structures, because the structures over there were already, like, you know, hanging on by a thread anyways. And I remember people from the government were getting fired because it was so mismanaged and all this stuff. But there was a 3-day flood. And I was just sitting back and going, maybe that's what's going on here, where the world is going to see that there was some kind of energetic shift that took place in May of 2018. And another thing that happened, which happened in July of 2018, is that the pyramids started heating up. And researchers were starting to see that it was almost as if they were activated. And this is all mainstream news, and people were seeing that. So the reason I bring all that up is because I wonder if now that we're moving towards this positive timeline, now that we're all getting ourselves right energetically and everything like that, now there's a new discovery to show the entire world there's a shift. And that's the whole point of bringing all this out right now, to show the world and be kind of a marker that the energies have indeed shifted. I'm looking at this video, and I think y'all probably want to hear the audio instead of me just talking and talking and talking. Let's go to the audio real quick.
There's a slope. See? There you go. You see that slope? That leads to a block that's been placed to block the way, to block the passage. And on top of that block is a star map from 10,200 BC.
I see that block.
Yeah.
Let me get a good picture of it. Can you move that camera?
I was blown away, and it's already thick in there, and it's hard to breathe, but I was just blown away.
They have voltage meters here. What is that?
We're getting readings.
They're taking readings.
We're taking readings.
They found something.
24 hours a day in this place.
No wonder they shut it down.
Yeah.
It's all coming in over here. This is incredible. $11.91, $14.99, or $19.91, $19.91.
In 2003 is when he shut this place down to the public. This is the first time in 15 years that somebody without a sign is bad to be there.
HIP Institute, Arab Republic of Egypt, Faculty of Engineering.
Damn, I can feel it all over again. It's so great.
Yeah, it is. Look, there's an intercom system. There's carvings everywhere. Here it is again. 15.
No, that's 1915.
1915.
So yeah, that was intense, man. That was really intense. I want to go to the end here, where we're kind of talking about what's going on, and it was hard to breathe in there, and the excitement of being in there, and all that. That's why I was like, I was also like bigger than I've ever been. I didn't even realize how big I was until I saw the footage, and I was like, oh my god. Anyways, yeah, it's a new trajectory now. Ugh.
Hey, give me just a moment.
Okay.
So what are you thinking so far?
I've always known this wasn't a temple.
No,
Here it
it's
is,
not. It's a
right here.
machine.
It's a giant machine.
This isn't a burial place either.
No, this was not a spiritual place. It was a technological one.
Yeah. This place had a purpose.
And thus, anything that Aleister Crowley or any other stupid idiots try to do here meant nothing. It's all about the technology.
Why are the shafts so small?
It's not just ventilation. According to Egyptologists, the pharaohs and their wives thought they could use the shafts to get out.
Yeah, but none of these are for people walking.
No.
None at all. This is for something different.
They also surmise that it might be people trying to use it for astronomy. With mirrors and things like that, being able to see the stars.
Yeah.
I don't think that's it either.
So yeah, that happened, and that was really cool. But we recognize it to be the machine that it is, like right off the bat. I'm sorry, I'm feeling the energy again, and it's bringing back that feeling. So I'm a little bit scatterbrained right now. But up on the screen, we've got the scans of what they actually found, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pillars. Maybe 9, I'm not exactly sure. From what I gather from the notes that I wrote, there's about 8 pillars here. And these 8 pillars are actually really interesting because supposedly what's happening is in the book of Enoch and in Hermes' writings as well, he talks about the pillars and the pillars of knowledge too. And so on the way they map this out as just blue pillars with some kind of coils going around them, or staircases or something like that. I think they call it staircases. But what I actually think would be most interesting is what's carved on that. What kind of knowledge is carved on that? And why was it buried so far under the ground? And why was it sealed off for so long? And when you think about the pyramid too, it was revealed in like the early 1900s or late 1800s. So we're talking about something that was only discovered about 100 years ago, but was built, in my opinion, 10,000 BC, around that time. Mainstream science would say that it was more like 3,000 BC. But I think it's even older than that. But what's written on these pillars here? The pillars of Enoch. The book of Enoch, it provides unique insight into ancient cosmology and metaphysics. It describes the pillars of heaven and of earth that support the firmament, an early model of cosmic architecture. So when you look at this picture here, you see the pillars holding up what could be, metaphorically and symbolically, the firmament, the dome inside of the earth that we're in, or the matrix that we're in here, housing the underground chamber, the queen's chamber, and the king's chamber. But everything is really down at the bottom, and it's being held up by these pillars. So as above, so below. Was this based off of those ancient texts or ancient knowledge? Is this metaphor? Is this more pillars that we need to actually examine? So that's the first thing that went off when I heard about these pillars. So the way they're all connected, my mind is going into so many different places. When we did the ritual in the pyramid, when there was the breakout before hitting that 13th dimension, there was a chasm, and in between the 12 dimensions here and the chasm, and the 13th dimension, there was a chasm, and I thought it was an object. And I was pushing and pushing and pushing and trying to get to that object. I thought I was looking for an object. Once I got to that object, I realized that it wasn't an object, but rather it was a room. It was a space. It was another dimension. And pushing into that ball of white light, that became an entire different space. But as I was moving up towards between the 12th dimension and the 13th dimension, that's the best way that I can describe it, I noticed that I was inside of another pillar. I'm sorry, inside of another pyramid. And I talk about this on a different live stream, like right afterwards. That's when the experience was just the freshest. But it's interesting that this can be symbolic of what all these ancient texts were talking about. And this can be a small model based on how this world is set up, with the pillars of power holding everything else up, but at the same time, everything being so disconnected, but interconnected at the exact same time. So we're just discovering all of this, which makes those pillars even that much more interesting, in my opinion. Enoch referred to the four winds, the cornerstones, and the foundations of the earth. It can symbolize dimensional anchor points or resonant structures embedded in Earth's geometry itself. These may also be metaphorically referenced as locations of spiritual power, including pyramid sites like Giza. So this could be just one anchor point. And the reason that it could be echoing what we see in these ancient texts, with the pillars holding up a structure, holding up a pyramid representing the matrix or the earth. It could be that this is an anchor point. There's another anchor point and somewhere else in the earth, another anchor point, another anchor point. And the way we identify those anchor points is not just through the energetic resonance, but also they literally left us a model to look at with information on the pillars themselves. So they're like, hey, check this out. Okay, this is what we've been describing in these ancient books. Here's one site that's an anchor point. Here's information that you need from this one site. Now you've got to go find the other 7 anchor points, which is a huge task. But that's how my mind kind of interpreted all this. And it reminds me of a quote. I saw the winds of the earth carrying the clouds. I saw the path of the angels. I saw the 4 winds which support the earth in the firmament of heaven. And that's in Enoch 18:5-6. And these pillars may not serve as physical stabilizers, but they're it's more of a metaphoric, and it's interdimensional, and they're gateways or dimensional markers, perhaps aligning with the 8 shafts dedicated beneath the Giza Plateau. And you've got as above, so below all over the place here. You've got the 8 pillars. You've got the other dimension, which is the pyramid. You've got the 3 pyramids there, which are then aligned with Orion stars. And it creates this whole beautiful geometric pattern that when you understand the sacred geometry behind everything, it all starts to click together. And why is this all being revealed right now? Why are we seeing the anchor points? Why are we seeing these places of power? I think it's because we're reclaiming our power. And we're reclaiming, as somebody said, the halls of Amenti, the information from the halls of Amenti. And now it's time for the entire world to see it, because in my opinion, this is the last incarnation, at least it is for me. And this is all vital information for stepping beyond the veil, stepping into the next dimension, or returning back home, or escaping this construct, this wheel of reincarnation that we have been stuck in. So the pillars of Hermes, this is where it kind of ties in. I just wanted to touch upon the pillars of Enoch for a second, but the pillars of Hermes. In Hermetic traditions, Hermes / Thoth, which Thoth energy was just like everywhere. It was everywhere. I don't think I ever talked about this publicly, but when I was in the Temple of Isis and also in the pyramid, what I saw is as I was moving through, like the Temple of Isis was kind of like a training facility. You know, it was like a dry run. It's that big pillar, or that big altar in the middle of the Holy of Holies, that was acting like the sarcophagus and the energies of the pyramid, except for when we're pushing the energies and being shown how to push the energies up and out of the matrix, it was going into that altar and into that granite altar and then just not going anywhere because it wasn't meant to. But as I was moving through these dimensions, I started noticing that the faster I was moving, the more the dimensions were bending. And what I was seeing in there is the shape of ibis heads. Like, imagine going down a hall and you've got all these different pictures on the walls, and you're moving down this hall and it's just it's ibis heads, ibis heads, ibis heads, ibis heads. Except for they're not actually ibis heads if you're standing still. They're only ibis heads when you're moving in that frequency and in that momentum. And so I was moving, everything was kind of shifting and bending and smearing, and I could see the ibis heads like kind of moving towards where we were going, and this repeated itself in the pyramid. Now, was it just one big epic ayahuasca experience for my own personal journey? Perhaps. Or was this an actual physical dimension that can be seen in the DMT ayahuasca realm when you utilize something like these ancient technologies? That's another question that I have. But Thoth energy, my point being that Thoth energy played a huge role. And if you look at the Emerald Tablets, even it says there that Thoth built the pyramids. And we think of building the pyramids as in taking one brick and laying them down and laying them down and laying them down. But now we understand the pyramids are much bigger structures than this. So if Thoth built the pyramids with the knowledge and the wisdom and all of that encoded into these pillars, it all starts to make sense with all of these ancient texts. So the pillars are the wisdom of Atlantis on two sacred pillars: alchemy, astronomy, sacred geometry, and the science of the soul, which in ancient times, and even up until the last 50 years, you had to have libraries about this. You had to travel the world. You know, you had to know people that knew people that had all this information. You couldn't just go out there and just unlock this information unless you were like working with like sacred plants and unlocking it. But you couldn't really verify it in texts up until the last 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, because we had internet going all the way back to the 80s, even going back to the 70s, but it wasn't really publicly available until about 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, all of a sudden, everybody started having access to everything and everybody. We were suddenly, you know, I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure some of you are old enough to remember, but you used to have to dial long distance to just call out of your city and just call out of your state, much less around the world. And if you wanted to call somebody around the world, well, it cost you an arm and a leg. All those barriers were just shut down. And now all of a sudden the world became interconnected with everything and everyone. We could talk to people on the other side of the world. We can talk to people in real time right now. I'm sure people in the chat room right now are from all different parts of the world. So we're connected now. Not only are we connected with each other, we're connected by resonance and connected by frequency, but we're also connected by information, because we can all access all of these ancient books now. We can access all of this ancient wisdom. All you have to do is just Google it. And it's getting even better because AI, you can just put it into AI and AI will tell you, here's a link to download that book you're looking for. It's freaking awesome. And so now that we're at this point, this feels to me Like, this is it. This is the ascension. This is what everybody's been waiting for. And you have to have the knowledge and the wisdom, which is readily available. So now it's not a matter of seeking out the knowledge. Now it's a matter of simply just typing into your device, whether it's a phone or computer or anything like that. And everybody has a device, and you've got this ancient wisdom. And so now the only thing left is decoding it within yourself to move into that next realm of existence, whether it's a higher frequency, higher consciousness dimension, or whether it's escape from the matrix, or whether it's breaking out of this construct altogether in the wheel of reincarnation. Whatever your journey is, we have the tools, we have the power, we have the information about alchemy, we have the information about astronomy, we have the information about astrology, sacred geometry, and the science of the soul. And when they write this down as astronomy, I want to just make this point really quickly. It wasn't until about 100 or 150 years ago that astronomy actually became astronomy. It always has been about astrology, and then that kind of like shifted into the actual physical study of these planetary bodies. But for hundreds or thousands of years, it's always been about the energies. It's always been about the energies and the frequencies that the planets were aligning and the different astrological alignments. So I would say encoded is astrology information and information about how powerful the celestial bodies are. And according to Josephus or other historians, these pillars were created to withstand a great cataclysm, either a flood or a fire. And so, is this a reflection of the great pillars? Segment, please stop doing that. Is this a reflection of the great pillars, or are these one of maybe many pillars, or are these the pillars? I don't think they're the pillars. I think the pillars that they're talking about are much, much, much greater. But if you look at the different ways that the world is set up with, you'll see that one of the anchor points, this very well could be the pillars of the anchor points, or the anchor point of that part of the world. And are there more pillars and anchor points in places like Teotihuacan, in other sites like that? I don't know. That's yet to be revealed. So these are not just metaphysical or metaphorical pillars. They can represent physical crystalline data vaults. Physical crystalline data vaults. Subterranean chamber housing the Atlantean archives. How exciting would that be if the archives are there? And when we went there, we went blindly and we were touching stone. And I noticed some stones spoke to us, some stones didn't. I saw a whole narrative when I actually touched the Great Pyramid for the first time inside of the Grand Gallery. And it had to do with, I'm thinking back, and I don't know if I want to go off into that direction. You know, why not? I saw that there was a struggle, that there was something going on. There was a council of 9 beings, and it was like people like Set, Horus, Thoth, many others. And at some point, Set and Horus betrayed everybody else, locked people within this matrix and all of that. And I don't know, I just kind of took this vision and just kind of put it to the side and said, you know, maybe it's something to think about, maybe not, maybe there's something to it, maybe not. It doesn't really line up with too much Egyptology or anything like that. But when we were at Saqqara, the weird thing is that I touched the stones there, and I started getting visions of these stargates, these taper beings. They were manipulating things here in this realm, but they were using dinosaurs to do it, and they were using dinosaurs to move these giant blocks. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. At that time, I was like, I don't even know if dinosaurs actually exist, because all we have found is these fossils and a few bones. Most of what we see out there is just their interpretation of what these things could possibly be. And then, of course, you have like Angkor Wat, where you see like Stegosaurus with people, and so the timelines just don't match up. But then a couple of months later, there was a discovery. Again, it's so weird because we tap into these energies, and then there's a discovery a couple months later. They found the largest dinosaur skeleton in Saqqara right then and there. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing here, but it's interesting that we tapped into this energy. So bringing this back all the way around, Is it the same with these pillars and this space down here? When the information is not only encoded with hieroglyphs and in actual writing, but what happens when you can actually, when a person of the right resonance and frequency, and I think all of you out there are most likely at that place, vibrating at that place, you touch those stones. And then you get those visions, and it's the extra information. It's the real information that's been encoded into these pillars and into these stones, along with the actual visuals there. How amazingly cool would that be? And yeah, it's I can feel the energy. I can feel the fire. I want to go back so bad, and I want to touch those things. I don't think they're going to let anybody near those things right now. Anyways, so the foundation of what we now call the Hall of Records. Are we looking at the Hall of Records? I think we are. I think there's something to it. And it's all like, it's so like layered on top of each other. So you have the Hall of Records, you have what you touch and pull out of there. You also have the pillars from ancient texts. With these ancient texts talk about these 8 pillars. That allows you to decode it even more. And so you've got to have all this different understanding in order to fully understand what is there. Symbolism and esoteric meaning. Pillars often symbolize duality, initiation, ascension, and mystical traditions. So what kind of ascension have we gone through by discovering these? What kind of initiation are we as a human species finally being initiated into breaking out of this matrix? Because the weighing of the heart ceremony didn't go too well in 2020. Humanity chose enslavement and the destruction of sovereignty. But maybe things have shifted and maybe things have changed. And so now the energies out there are like, okay, now it's time for the initiation of humanity to step. They've leveled up. They're stepping beyond the veil now. So here is the first level of the ascension process, which is the revelation and the revealing of this knowledge that is buried right there. I think as time progresses, we're going to see more and more and more as soon as some people can get down there and actually see what it is. But I don't know how far away we are from there. But when I start talking on these frequencies, I feel timeless. I feel like there's no distinction between 10,000 BC and 2025 CE and 2018 CE. It all just feels like it's all one time space. So even if it happens 200 years from now, it's still in alignment, and it's an alignment ready to happen. The 8 cylinder shafts found on the radar scans, these right here, they could align with this. So I kind of broke this down. So the 8 hermetic principles: mentalism, the pillar of the mind, the all is the mind. Everything begins with a thought. And we've forgotten about that. And I know on the last show that I was talking about this, and I got so many comments that people were resonating with this. Like, you know, the mind manifestation just wasn't working for such a long time. It seemed like it was over the last 2 or 3 years or something like that. Very weird, maybe planetary shifts or maybe timeline shifts or whatever the case may be. Very weird energies where people were not able to manifest. And we're starting to get that manifestation back. And maybe it's just the fact that more and more people are waking up out of the slave frequency into the sovereign frequency. And so energetically, we're able to reconnect now with all of the energies, like a big energetic grid of consciousness. And we're able to tap into that, where the energetic grid of consciousness moved more towards slavery in 2020 and is now moving towards sovereignty. So the all is the mind. So remember your thoughts, the loops, everything that loops in the thought patterns, in the thought loops. We have to break that. We have to break that with being grounded. We have to break that with being focused. We have to break that by recognizing those patterns and recognizing those loops, so we break out of them. It's like the infinity loop of the number 8, where you're just going in circles and going in circles and going in circles. And when you break free of that loop, it becomes the 9, because you go through the loop and then you break out of it. So that's symbolism that I found for myself, and I don't know if anybody else's work echoes with that, but this is my own personal understanding. The 8, the infinity, is the infinite loop. The 9 is the breaking out of that loop. Correspondence, as above, so below. That's another one of the pillars, as above, so below, showing that this is multi-layered. And it's showing in the physical how it's multi-layered. You have a set of 8 pillars here that was discovered under the pyramid. You have 8 pillars that's talked about in the ancient books, but also interdimensionally as well, and the different dimensions that are opening and merging together. So we take all the symbolism and we understand the symbolism, and we apply the symbolism to other dimensions as well. And then, of course, you have the pillar of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything has to move. Everything has to move. Stillness in the mind is good temporarily, but you have to have forward motion as well. There's a difference between stillness in the mind and stillness in thought and stillness in the self, because that stillness then propels you forward when you're moving with intention. But if you're sitting stagnant, which I feel like we have been for the past 3-4 years, everything's been stagnant. That's when things rot. That's when things fester. That's when things start to go bad. So the vibration is so important. And that's when we talk about raising the frequency. What is that? That's a vibration. You have an atom that's sitting still and it's not moving at all. And the faster it moves, the faster it moves, the faster it moves, the more that it transforms into a different type of structure. And so when our consciousness is moving quicker and quicker and quicker and vibrating at those higher frequencies, it's actually vibrating at a faster frequency, which goes back to what I was talking about before about moving through those hallways. Where I saw the ibis heads, it was only because I was moving so quickly that I recognized them, that I saw them. If I wasn't moving so quickly, they would be just, I don't know what they looked like when there was no motion, but the motion is what made the symbols. The motion is what manifested the pathways, what manifested the energy of this is the right way to go. You have the pillar of polarity. Everything has opposites. So as above, so below, up and down, left and right, night and dark, all of that, balancing all of that together. You have the pillar of rhythm. Everything flows in and out, which creates that motion. It all creates that motion. You have the pillar of cause and effect. Nothing escapes universal law. Everything that happens, there's a reaction for every action. I'm going to tie all this in esoterically here in a second. I just want to get through these real quick. You have the pyramid of the duality of gender. Now, it's not gender in the perverted way that they've perverted gender. It's the gender of consciousness in the sense of divine masculine, divine feminine. You have protector energy, you have warrior energy, and you also have nurturing energy, you have caring energy. All that is in alignment. And the pillar of generations, and that is the principle that all things evolve and all things are reborn. So when we look at this completely and totally esoterically, we find a pathway and a roadmap for every single anchor point that we have to anchor our consciousness into, and everything that we have to be in alignment with within ourselves in order to be able to move forward and transcend this reality, this dimension, this matrix, whatever you want to call it. So it's mastery of the mind. It's understanding of the duality of as above, so below. It's the understanding of the vibrations of the frequency. It's the understanding of the polarity and how there are the opposites. And it's moving in rhythm, moving in that synchronistic rhythm, moving with the energies instead of constantly trying to fight the energies or just taking a step back and saying, no, I'm going to stand still. The cause and effect, and remembering that our actions, our thoughts, all of that, they all manifest outwards. And when they do, we truly create reality that way. Now, I think, to me, this is a sign saying, hey, humanity is back in charge. And now we're creating reality the way that we want to create reality. It's so amazing. So these principles come from the core of Hermetic science and initiation. Each of the 8 shafts could metaphorically or energetically correspond to one of these principles. So what kind of information do we have in terms of that there? And the concept of the 8 foundational principles does not originate from the Enoch texts, but actually they originate from the Hermetic tradition of Thoth and Hermes. And the wisdom of Thoth is just absolutely infinite, and it's so intense that I'm actually running out of breath as I'm sitting here talking. I haven't been this fired up in a long time. I think what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to take a quick break because I just need to just rebalance myself here for just a second. I'm just going to play whatever, so I don't even know what this is. Actually, I have something better here. If I have it handy. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's just feel the energy here for just a moment. I will be right back and kind of reorganize my thoughts. let me jump back into this. Oh, all right. So, ascension in the real sense of consciousness ascension, not the new age bullshit, love and light, all that. Awareness. In order to ascend, we have to have the awareness, the true awareness. It's about seeing beyond what's our eyes, what is in our eyes. It's about recognizing that both the external world and our inner world are projections of something higher. It's not just about presence, but witnessing life without judgment or without attachment, removing all those attachments, observing the flow of the energy and the consciousness that it all connects in that energetic grid that I was talking about earlier. Tapping into all of that and using that energy, tapping into that energy to propel us forward. The pillar of intention, the thoughts, which are so powerful in our minds, the intentions, which is the force that guides them, the intention to grow, to align with the highest truth that shapes our reality. Setting clear and purposeful intentions which help direct the energies towards the higher dimensions, bringing us closer to our true essence, to our true purpose, to our raw consciousness, as I've often said in the past. And the ascension, it's not passive. It requires active flow, active energy, active willpower to push through all this. The pillar of transformation, the ascension, which requires us to shed the old, to get rid of anything that doesn't suit us anymore. And sometimes it's rough. I know I'm going through a lot of energetic transits right now, of shifting and removing all things that are no longer suit me for the next leg of the journey. And by doing that, it's releasing energies too. It's like a cup that needs space to fill up with whatever's new, and holding on to different energies and things like that also holds on to that cup of energy where they need something, or it needs something, whatever the case may be. It needs something to also, it needs room to also fill. And so holding on to the things that don't suit us is not only detrimental to ourselves, but it's also detrimental to whatever it is that we're holding on to. I mean, I've had to go through a complete and total just shedding of everything. Somebody was asking what happened to TFR, and TFR just, it wasn't something that suited my journey anymore. It was a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and I needed to focus. I only have like so much energy that I can focus on, and I needed to focus on other things. AyaLife, AYALife.com, as I was talking about earlier, is going through an ascension process into something completely and totally new. And so I needed to focus my energies more on stuff like that, that's going to help people to really tap in, to not only tap in wellness of the body, but also wellness of the mind too, and help people get into those sacred spaces. And I'm looking into one other thing, just a quick side note, the mushrooms. I've seen a lot of people selling mushrooms and candy bars and things like that, and I'm looking into the technicalities and legalities of that. But if there's a way that we can get into the mushrooms as well and really help people really see beyond the veil, and do it above board, that's the next level, in my opinion. And everything we do with our Beyond the Veil strain, with the AyaLife stuff, I mean, we go in there, and in our huge grow area, there's no arguing, there's no negative energy, there's music playing. It's a very sacred kind of ritual. We treat it in the very same way that we do with the ayahuasca whenever we're brewing our own ayahuasca. So taking it on the next level, if we get into the ability to be able to bring mushrooms to people out there, that's also going to be grown with the same beautiful intention and frequencies and harmony and all of that. And you know, if it's just put out, if it's just put out there in a marketing kind of way, people will look at it and go, oh, that's silly. But when it's put out there in an energetic kind of way to people that resonate with that frequency, then they feel the difference. They feel the difference whenever they take a step beyond the veil whenever they eat the mushrooms or whatever the case may be. You can feel the energy of the plants, and that's the goal, is to help people feel the energy and all unite together. So a little bit of a side note there, but the transformation, the process of continuous change, letting go of outdated beliefs, releasing attachments to the ego, and embracing growth. This is the painful but necessary process of becoming who we're meant to be. Not who we were before, not who we want to be, but who we're meant to be. And the journey is ever evolving. And so if we're stuck being who we were 10 years ago, are we actually evolving? That's what I've been asking myself in the mirror all the time. And there's so many parts of myself that's like, no, I want to go back and do this way. I want to do it that way. And the same messages I keep getting over and over again. It's not about any of that. It's about shedding all of that and about moving forward. So, which brings it all back to balance, the pillar of balance. And the universe operates in balance. So must we. Have we been operating in balance? I see Dave in the chat, and Dave, I think it was Dave on Facebook that was a big inspiration for this. The carnivore diet that I've been doing, and really just like toning myself and getting back to the gym and doing all of that. I realized that I've never really taken time to really balance the physical. I've always been balancing the consciousness. I've always been balancing the heart, but I never really took the time to really focus on the physical. And it may seem contrary. And some people may say, well, the path is to just be vegan and not eat any meat or anything like that. My path is just strictly meat and animal, and that's it. That's brought me back to that warrior frequency. And I got to tell you, clearing out carbs is one of the best things that I've ever done. My mind is so clearer than it's ever been in my life. I don't want to go on and on and on about that, but I think it was Dave that I was interacting with on Facebook. If it is, cheers, brother. If not, cheers anyways. And I know Triple Hammer said that he ordered one of the 1111 packs. So thank you, Triple. Thank you very much. We will get that out to you tomorrow for sure. Balancing our own energies so we achieve peace, clarity, deeper connection to the universe. Only then can we begin the higher path ahead of us. So whatever your piece is, whatever your way is, but think about it: mind, body, soul, mind, body, soul, mind, body, soul. That's what it's all about. It's about mind, body, soul. We can't sit around. This is why I always had this gripe with the Buddhists. They sit around meditating for 30 years. Okay, you're not really moving, and you're not taking care of your body at the same time. The warrior monks, on the other hand, that's the path. They're taking care of the mind, body, and soul. And so my focus has shifted to let's take care of the body too. Maybe some of y'all out there needed to hear that too. Compassion, it's the key to unlocking higher realms. It's all about recognizing the divine in others, seeing that we're all connected, and remembering that, because the world, for me, I've become jaded. I found myself to be very jaded in the world. Just being like, fuck it all. And fuck it all, that's a great mindset to have, but in the right context. Don't let the weight of the world just weigh on you so badly. And it did for a long time. But so when we love unconditionally, without barriers, without judgments, we align ourselves with the higher dimensions. And compassion dissolves the separations that we create. Understanding, empathy, it allows us to ascend as part of the collective, but also as individuals as well. So the compassion, we often forget to have compassion for ourselves. We get caught up in these different narratives. And one of the things that I realized, I'm starting another channel, and I actually made the first video today, and it was talking about how consciousness can fall and consciousness can break. And sometimes we don't even realize this. But the way that it happens through the love and light, and it happens through the compassion that we have, because we see that as strengths. We see that as making that part of us and part of the ascension process. But when you really think about it, you just give away the compassion, you give away the empathy, you give away all of that. And at the end of the day, what you might be left with is giving away too much to the wrong energies, which then turns around and backfires on you. And people have this mentality of, it's like a martyr kind of mentality where if you suffer for the greater good, then that's the path to ascension. And even the Buddhists talk about this too, like life is suffering and the suffering for the greater good and all this. But really, are you not best suited to help the greater good if you've taken care of yourself? If you're in a good, stable, hardcore frequency where you can be the warrior, you can be the protector, you have the divine feminine energy as well, so you can be the nurturer, you can be the caregiver, you can be all of that. But all of that combined together, then that makes you the strongest to be able to really help consciousness ascend, not just become a feather in the wind. So presence to ascend, we must learn to fully be present in the moment. And this was very, very, very difficult for me to understand. And over the last couple of years, I've really understood what depression is like. I've really understood what anxiety is like, the two polar opposites of each other. And when they both hit you at the exact same time, sometimes you don't even realize it. And you get stuck in this void, in this sand pit, or a quicksand that just pulls you in and pulls you in and pulls you in. And I know a lot of people out there felt it, and I felt it too. I experienced it too. And it pulls you down into that frequency. But what is that really about? You've probably heard this before, but it's worth reiterating. What is that really about? Depression is about worrying about what happened in the past. Anxiety is worrying about what happened in the future. So grounding yourself into the present moment has, for me, become one of the most powerful tools, and actually practicing what I preach. Like, I knew that I'm supposed to be doing this, but I never really put it into practice with so much focus and so much intention as I have now. And that takes care of the thought loops, and the loops in the patterns is what we want to break, and recognizing those loops and those patterns. But you start to get those thought loops or whatever the case may be, and you take a step back and you go, wait a second, that was then. This is the now. This is what I'm grounded in right here and right now. And I used to practice this like 10 years ago, then something happened and I forgot. And so if I forgot, there must be others out there that forgot too. So if there's others out there that forgot, maybe by me remembering, I can also send a signal out there, and others will remember too, if you need to hear that. Being present allows us to connect to the flow of the energy around us and within us. It's through the presence that we access the higher dimensions, because the higher self resides in the present moment. Every breath we take is a full awareness and a step towards that ascension and the step towards that next level. So if we're caught up worrying about the past, caught up worrying about the future, which is the anxiety and the depression, and not living in the moment, the higher self doesn't reside in the future. The higher self doesn't reside in the worries of the past or the worries of the future. The higher self resides in the here and the now. And at the end of the day, what is it, that final moment that we're here? Are we going to be worrying about the future? Or are we going to be worrying about the past? Because you see, these are the energies that keep us trapped whenever it's time to hit that wheel of reincarnation. Worrying about the past. Oh no, I have all these attachments here. I have all these attachments there. I have to go back and live another life because I have this undone. I have that undone. It's the attachments and the worry, which is why the moment now, to focus on the moment now, is so important. Now, of course, I'm not saying just focus on the moment and forget about the future. You know, I mean, you have to strategically look at the future, but don't let the future look at you in a way to where it starts manipulating you instead of you manipulating your future, because you are the architect of your reality. You are the creator of your reality. And so create it with intention. Don't let it create you. Damn, that's gold. I gotta freaking write that down. All right. Gratitude. Gratitude is a transformative energy that elevates the vibration. It is the more that we acknowledge and appreciate the abundance around us, the more that we attune ourselves to the higher frequencies, to the next dimension, the more we attune ourselves to the frequency of escape from the matrix, or transcendence of the matrix, or moving into the next level, the next dimension. And I use all these different words because I don't want anybody to feel like I'm telling you what is the next step, because the next step for me may be different from the next step for you. So if you feel that it's time for you to escape, if you feel that it's time for you to transcend, if you feel that it's time for you to even come back into the wheel of reincarnation, at the end of the day, it's all about gratitude for what we have experienced. And I've always said that there's no such thing as a bad experience as long as you learn from it. If you learn from any experience, then you can transmute that experience from a negative experience into an experience that helps you grow. So that's the gratitude that I'm talking about here, is the gratitude of, I went through some shit, but I'm grateful that I did. Because had I not gone through that shit, had I not gone through that fire, I wouldn't be here with the understanding that I have right now. Instead of looking back at that fire and going, oh man, everything burned in that fire, everything burned in that fire, because it was supposed to burn, because it was time to let go of it. All of it was supposed to burn. And that's what that fire was. So it's a matter of shifting the perspective, but not only shifting the perspective, but truly understanding from the bottom of your heart, from your raw consciousness, from the depths, that all of it, every single experience, I'm grateful for. And I hope you guys and gals are grateful for your experiences out there too. Even the worst ones, even the worst ones. And I know that's a big pill to swallow sometimes. It's a lot easier said than done. I know it, because some people have gone through some horrible things. I've gone through some horrible things, but I know there's people out there that have gone through way more horrible things. But I know I've done some really cool things and some things that were freaking awesome. And I know there's people out there that did things that were 10 times more awesome than I have. So, you know, it's all relative. And by practicing gratitude, we start to see the interconnectedness of all things. And so when we understand all these experiences, all these people, sometimes people that we just absolutely just hate. I'm like, oh my God, I want to kill that person. They did this and they did that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they pushed you into having to act in a certain way or make a certain decision or something like that. And if you took the higher consciousness path, then you look back on that situation and go, you know what? Yeah, that person was an asshole, but they helped me get to where I am now. That's the gratitude, not to them, but to the universe and to yourself too. The gratitude for yourself for being able to absorb those lessons, being able to understand that and be able to see how every single thing is interconnected. Everything. So gratitude opens a door to deeper wisdoms, which is exactly what I'm talking about now, the wisdom. Wisdom and knowledge are two different things. Knowledge is, you could get knowledge in a book. Wisdom is knowledge learned through experience. And so gratitude opens the door to that deeper wisdom, helps us ascend by removing all the limitations. Trust. Trust is a fundamental aspect of ascension. Trust in ourselves and trust in the process that we're going through ourselves. And as I said, your process may be different from mine, but trust in your own process. Not trust in everything out there blindly. See, the new age bullshit would say, oh, trust me, I'm a guru. Trust this, trust that. No. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust your own path. Trust your intuition. Because at the end of the day, underneath it all, inside that raw consciousness that we all have, we all know. We all have all the knowledge and the wisdom all right there. It's just been locked away from us. So trust in your own heart and guard your own heart too. Now, I've always cringed whenever I hear all these different... It started with the Palladians. It started with all these different supposed aliens. And they would say, open your heart to receive our message. It's like, why do you want in my heart space so bad? And then you go to the religion too. And the religion says, open your heart. Accept Jesus into your heart. Wait a second. Can't I understand this without allowing an entity into my heart? Because that heart space is a direct access point into the raw consciousness. And it's the last layer before getting into the soul layer that can be manipulated. So if your heart's being manipulated, then you could be moved around like a puppet very, very, very easily. No. I'm going to guard my heart. I'll open my heart to what I feel is the right resonance, but I'm not going to open my heart to something that says, hey, come and open your heart. But at the same time, guarding the heart and opening the heart to oneself, opening the heart. Here we go. I got to go back. I got to take a lot of these things that I'm saying here and put them in my book because this is freaking great. Open your heart to your raw fucking consciousness. That's what it's about. Open your heart to your raw fucking consciousness. All right. And as we trust, we release the need to control everything. We just trust that the process that we're going through is the right process. And we trust our own raw consciousness. And this is how we surrender to the higher forces at play. knowing that our soul's journey is unfolding perfectly, even if we can't yet see it at the time. So you're going through some shit right now. Things are being torn down. Your world is being torn down around you, whatever the case may be. But it's okay. Trust that the higher self, the raw consciousness, your own journey is in alignment with where you need to be later. And so you're moving towards those frequencies. I was actually talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, man, I wish I can find a woman that does this and does that, and is this kind of consciousness and that kind of consciousness, etc. And I said, okay, so what kind of work have you been doing on yourself? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, what kind of work have you been doing? Well, I've been on Facebook and I've been researching this and researching that. Okay, but what kind of practical application have you been doing? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I do a couple mushroom trips every once in a while. I said, okay. So if that frequency, that energy walked into your sphere right now, would she recognize you as resonating at the frequency that you want her to be in? You want this higher consciousness person that, does this and that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Are you vibrating at that frequency? If not, you can meet her right here and right now, but she's not going to recognize you and you're not going to recognize her because your frequency isn't in alignment. The key to finding that is lining the frequency up together with what it is that you want. And then when whoever that person is crosses your sphere, then you're in alignment and you're in the right frequency and there's recognition there. And he looked at me and he said, wow, man, I've never heard that before. That's what it's about. It's all what it's about. And it doesn't even have to do, in that particular case, this guy was looking for a girlfriend. He wasn't looking for a girlfriend, he was looking for a life partner. But that's the case with whatever it is, with business, with family, with, whatever it is that we're doing. Are we vibrating at the frequency of what we want to manifest? Or are we trying to manifest something that's outside of our frequency range? So it's automatically going to be like, no, I don't vibrate with this frequency. So no, that's all we can change too. Can't change anybody. Can only change yourself. Can't change other people's frequencies. Well, I mean, I guess you can by manipulation, but that's not a good way to do it. But you can change your own frequency to vibrate higher. Self-love. This is a big one here. This is a big one that I had to learn really, really, really hard. Ascension begins within. We cannot transcend to higher dimensions if we don't first love ourselves and accept ourselves fully. Accept who you are, what you're doing, and who you are becoming. Because it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be in the worst possible place right now. I found myself a couple years ago in the worst possible place that I could be. And I mean, it wasn't anything like physical. It was just spiritual. It was like complete apathy. And I still had empathy, but it was hard to tap into that empathy because I was so disillusioned with the world as a whole. And I'm not talking about for individual people. I'm talking about for just the world as a whole. And I was at a point where I was like, fuck this place. I came, I did what I needed to do. I did what I needed to do in Egypt, all that. I'm out of here. These people suck. Not you guys and gals out there, but I'm talking about as humanity as a whole. Everybody that was standing there saying mask, 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 mask. Everybody who was saying, no, get out of my store unless you have a mask on. All those people. I was so disillusioned with all of that I was just like, it's not even worth it. And then I realized, wait a second, what am I doing to my frequency by doing that? No. I have to understand those people, and I have to approach them with compassion and love and empathy. It doesn't mean that I have to go out of my way and do things for them, but the understanding, the consciousness on the consciousness level, on the thoughts. You can look at somebody like that and go, that poor consciousness, it's still trapped in the lower frequency. Here, maybe I can shine a light. If not, I understand them the way they are. I understand where they're at. And it's okay. It's not personal. They're not doing this because it's a personal attack on me. They're doing it because they're trapped in their programs. And then you walk away from the situation and your frequency is raised instead of gone down. So just some lessons that I learned. And self-love is about recognizing our own worth. Embracing our flaws, acknowledging our divine essence. When we love ourselves, we heal and we expand. which allows us to ascend into higher states of consciousness and connection with each other. And loving ourselves is one of the hardest things to do. We can love other people infinitely, but when we look in the mirror sometimes, and it's not even that you look in the mirror and you hate yourself. It's just, are you really loving yourself? You stay in toxic situations. That's not loving yourself. In my case, what I learned just recently, I was eating garbage for a long time, and that wasn't loving myself. That was ignoring something very fundamental. I was not going to the gym like I started to do recently, and that wasn't loving myself. That was ignoring a very big part of myself. Now, I didn't hate myself, but I wasn't loving myself. So yeah, things have really transformed a lot. And taking care of oneself, I can't stress this enough. I've been trapped in situations where it's giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And then I realized, hey, wait a second, I'm not even getting a drop of water back here. Why am I giving and giving and giving if I can't even get a drop of water back to grow the plants that I need, that I have within myself, And then I realized, well, if I'm over here in the desert, metaphorically speaking, well, am I really loving myself, or do I need to go where there's water? And what's the point of me being in the desert if I'm just going to wither away and die in the desert? And that's in any situation. That went along with TFR too. TFR was great. I loved all the people there at TFR. I loved all of that. But it was taking up so much of my mental space and so much of my time that I was just like, I can't do it anymore. And I love doing it. It was so difficult to let go of, but it was something that I knew was not aligned with my future self. And it wasn't even the network itself. It didn't have anything to do with it. It had to do with where my energy and where my focus was and where my mind was, because I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to do whatever needed to be done. I loved doing all that, but it took away from me taking care of myself. And so the frequency started to drop without me even realizing it. So that's just one example of many. And detachment. Ascension requires us to detach from the material world, from our attachments, from our possessions, status, even relationships that no longer serve our higher purpose. And that's a tough one. That is a very tough one. But I was actually asking myself, who was I back then? And okay. And now, instead of saying, how do I get to where I was back then? Now the question is, what kind of resonance do I want to take with me from back then? And what do I want to leave behind moving forward? And detachment doesn't mean rejecting the world, but understanding that these things are temporary and they're external. We want to manifest a better reality for ourselves. How are we going to do that if we're deeply invested in the outcome of anything? And I'm talking about deeply invested to the point to where our emotional state and our mental state pivot on whatever happens with the outcome. Then are we really working at our true capacity? Or is it when we disconnect and we start to manifest and say, this is what we're manifesting, we're going to manifest it and it's already happened. But if it doesn't happen, then I'm okay with it because I understand that it wasn't meant to happen. And so my higher self is stepping in and saying, that's not the manifestation you need to do. There's another manifestation that you're missing here. Or are you going to dwell on that? And it's like going to a door and just banging on a door that's not opening. And you're missing the other door that you're supposed to actually be going down. But you're spending all your energy banging on a door that's not even meant to be opening. These ideas, they're easy to communicate. But then again, when you want to get into the complexity and the true meaning of it, they become more difficult. It doesn't mean just detaching from the world like that, but true freedom comes when we release the need for control. When we surrender our attachments and we trust in the raw consciousness flow of our lives. And we trust that everything that happened up to this point brought us to this very moment. And everything that we're doing in this very moment is taking us into the future of whatever we want to manifest and wherever we want to vibrate. I can feel it. this next year is just all about, for me, leveling up. And that's it, just leveling up, leveling up, leveling up. And it's almost like I've been handed a blank slate, said, okay, here, get rid of all your attachments and level up and build something that is you, that is a better foundation, that is what is aligned with not who you were, but who you will be. So openness. Rising to these higher dimensions, we have to be open to new perspectives, and open to learning, open to the experience of the unknown. We often get stuck in these loops of, well, this is the way that it was back then. This is the way that I want it now. This is the way that I want it in the future, without being open to the possibility of exactly what I was saying, is some of these attachments may not be what's suited for the frequency that we're resonating at. So we have to be open to the different perspectives that we may not have even thought about. And whatever the case may be, the raw consciousness, the higher self, whatever you want to call it, it's going to manifest the best possible timeline, We just have to surrender to it, and surrender to ourselves. Again, I can't reiterate that enough. And not surrender to the universe, not surrender to some outside frequency, surrender to your higher self, to your raw consciousness. Because ascension is a journey of expanding consciousness, and that it requires the willingness to embrace the unfamiliar. The more open that we are, the more wisdom, love, and insight we allow into our lives, guiding us towards, again, our raw consciousness. And I've often said this, but it's so much easier said than done. Instead of being reactionary, you be actionary. Instead of reacting to the matrix, you act within the matrix. You act with intention instead of reacting. And the reason that we react in certain ways is because we're hardwired, whether it's spiritually or mentally, to respond in certain situations in certain ways, which then create those loops that we are constantly trying to break. And once we recognize those loops and we break them, but the only way to recognize them is with openness of perspective and shifting your perspective. I just had this weird flashback. It was, I want to say, New Year's Eve or something like that. And I was doing some Molly, and I was looking at a tree, and I was like, you have to change your perspective. And it became kind of like a joke at that point, but it was something inside of me just saying, shift the perspective, shift the perspective, shift the perspective. And it's all starting to like make sense now. Why in that state where the raw consciousness was still like coming out in spurts, but it was coming out and like, hey, remember this for later. Remember this for later. It's all about perspective. Change your perspective. That's going to be so important later. Interesting. So unity. Ascension is not just an individual journey. It's a journey with oneself. It's a journey with the collective out there. But we ascend with the collective, but at the same time, we don't become the collective, because the collective can switch in one place or another. I don't think I need to go too much into this, but when we honor the unity with all the energies around us within the universe, the closer we come to the higher dimensions, the closer that we're able to tap into that energy and help lift that energy up into those other dimensions. And so we work as individuals, and the collective works as the collective, and we work with the collective, and the collective works with us. Instead of getting dragged into the collective, we start to help to push the collective up together to get the hell out of this negative timeline. And there's a couple of other ones. Wisdom. True wisdom is understanding of the nature of reality. The fact that what we perceive is just a fraction of the greater whole. Ascension is not about transcending the physical. It's about deepening our understanding of the metaphysical, the unseen forces that shape our reality. By seeking wisdom in all things, we align ourselves with the higher dimensions that we're moving towards, to gain clarity about our true path and about our true purpose. And then surrender. Excuse me. Surrender is not about giving up. That's not what I mean by surrender. It's about letting go of the illusion of control and allowing the universe to guide us, allowing the raw consciousness to guide us, putting it out there, putting our intentions out there, and then just putting it out there and just saying, you know what? Whatever the best outcome is, in all of the rituals that I've been doing myself, I haven't been asking for anything except for manifest the best possible outcome for my raw consciousness. Manifest whatever the raw consciousness is wanting to manifest. I have an intention, but my intention isn't, I want to manifest this. The intention is, I want to manifest what is best. And then sitting back with the logical mind and the human mind and going, surprise me. And the raw consciousness going, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then in surrender, we align with the divine flow and allow our higher selves to lead us into the next dimension. It's about the process of trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, and knowing that we always are supported by each other. We're always supported by the universe. We're always supported by our raw consciousness, even in the deepest moments of uncertainty. So, let me see if I have any other notes here. There was one thing that I wanted to mention earlier, and I forgot what it was. It had to do with the spiraling staircases. Oh, yeah. The spiraling staircases, the DNA, the double helix, the kundalini energy rising around the chakra system and moving up towards through the body. I thought that on the picture that I have up here of what they found underground, that spiraling staircase reminded me so much of the DNA and DNA upgrade, DNA activation. And so much of the DNA out there's been tainted by that jab and the mRNA stuff and reprogrammed and all of this. And there's very few of us now that are still purebloods. Very few of us that still carry the original code, or at least whatever original code it can be, considering the circumstances that we're in. And through the higher dimensions of consciousness, we initiate into the next level. So, yeah, I've got a bunch of other notes. Let's see. The halls of records. It's not just below Egypt. It's encoded in consciousness. It's a place that we can access, but we have the hall of records right here with all the information on the pillars and the planetary memories of the different astrological alignments. Pay attention to the stars. Pay attention to the stars because they're so important right now. And tap into astrology any way you can. So, what do you guys and gals think out there? Do y'all think that there is a global awakening happening right now? Maybe it's just my own awakening. Maybe it's the awakening of each and every one of you out there. And I'm feeling all this energy, but I think that it's bigger than that. I think that it's the global awakening. We had a false awakening before, and then this energy, the system just came back and just slapped everybody right back to sleep in 2020. But now I think humanity is ready to rise, and I feel it. I feel it. I feel great things happening. And is this the reactivation of the Giza system as a whole? What if this is an energy plant? What if this is free energy, something like that, and there's something in there that can be activated? Maybe spiritually, maybe physically. I was talking to a friend earlier, and I was telling him about this discovery, and he's like, man, what's the significance of that? And I said, dude, think about this. What if this was some kind of high-tech machine? I mean, I know the Emerald Tablets, they talk about a spacecraft that's buried underneath the pyramid. What if this is actually like a spacecraft type thing that's underneath the pyramid? And you think about this, where are we right now geopolitically? In November, we were preparing for Russia to potentially hit a button and blow us all up. And if that happens, it's not about Russia, it's not about World War III, it's not about any political party, it's about the fact that we would have an EMP and be blown right back to the Stone Age. And so what if that happened before? And this is just remnants of technology that was left behind before. And all these ancient civilizations, they were either at the technology that we are or even further. But he has a big, like, custom car shop. And I said, you know how to put cars together, you know how to take them apart, you know how to do all that. But do you know how to actually cast an engine block from materials that you get in the ground? And he's like, no, I can't do that. And I was like, exactly. So if 90% of the population is gone and you're left behind with a few other people, can you find somebody that can make an engine block? Or you know how to put it together, you know how to do all that, but can you make all those different pieces? If not, all that knowledge that you have eventually fades away. And then everything gets reset back to the Stone Age. Is that what happened in Egypt? And is that what's being revealed right now? He was like, damn. He was like, that's pretty deep. So what other ancient sites at the end of the day do you guys and gals out there think that are waiting to be activated? Where do we see hidden frequencies? And there's so many sites. Teotihuacan was one of the big ones. However, the one that keeps coming up for me over and over again is Göbekli Tepe. And I have no idea why. Like, I don't want to go to Turkey, but that one just keeps calling and calling and calling and calling and calling. So I just want to see what energy you guys are resonating at out there and see what y'all are feeling as far as ancient sites. Let me know, please. And yeah, there's so much more to get into, but I can't believe we already hit 2 hours. So I'm going to wrap it up. It's also late over here. Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. And once again, if you missed it, ayalife.com. We've got one last batch of the original Aya Life until we release some really cool stuff. You can go and hit the relaunch button and get the frequency specials. 6 for 1111, 3 for 69, or 1 for 2888. And this is the last chance to stock up. So this helped me get into alignment. This helps a lot of people get into alignment. So anyways, kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time it's going to be. I've been kind of keeping an eye on the chat. People are talking about Angkor Wat. Yeah, that one sticks out, man. It really does. Because Angkor Wat, as I said before, you've got the Stegosaurus there on the wall, and mankind and dinosaurs weren't supposed to be together. And also, they didn't discover dinosaurs until like the late 1800s or something like that. It's funny because all these discoveries all came out at the same time. The pyramids, the Temple of Hatshepsut wasn't excavated until like the 1950s. All these are relatively new in the grand scheme of things, but they've always been there. So Angkor Wat, that's a really cool one. I resonate with that. Machu Picchu, there's another one there. I hope everybody feels the shift. And yeah, thank you guys and gals. And I saw somebody say go carnivore. I don't remember who that was, but anyways, yeah, I'll talk more about that journey here in a little bit, because I want to get a few more weeks into it and see what the results are. But I can tell you this. Yes, we have shipped to New Zealand, and what we do with our CBD is, and I don't know if we can ship to New Zealand moving forward, because when we carry the Delta 9 and the THC, we have a lot more scrutiny by our credit card processors and everything like that. But what we do is, these bottles, they say CBD hemp oil on them. I think they say all natural hemp oil now, but or on all natural CBD oil. But what we do for international is we just put all natural instead of all natural CBD. We have had zero problems in the last since 2018. So if you want to get CBD, 99% pure CBD in New Zealand or other places, the shipping is a little bit pricey. We just charge you for what we get charged for shipping, and it's ridiculous. But there's a cheaper method to ship. The problem is, when we use the cheaper method, as soon as the package leaves the US, we can't track it at that point. So sometimes it was taking like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get to people. Now it's getting there in like 5 to 7 days, very quick. Yeah, so if you're international, definitely stock up on them now. And we can probably like ship internationally, like kind of like in the back end with like a couple of emails, like, hey, I want to order this. Okay, cool. Here. Just send this to PayPal instead of going through our processor, We'll figure out a way to make sure that people can get within. I don't know if we can do that with the THC stuff, but the CBD stuff, no problem. Anyways, so yeah, I'm excited. I hope you all have awesome things going on in your lives. I hope you all are freaking, the testimonials are off the charts with Aya Life. Yes, they are. I have a whole file with all of them. I need to put them up on the website, but I created a whole new website, and we've got all the old testimonials up there. We get scrutinized sometimes about having medical claims, and so some of the testimonials that we have, they're like, hey, this cured my tennis elbow, and it's like, that's awesome, but we can't put that on our site, because then they're like, you're making medical claims. I'm like, I'm not making medical claims. It's people. This is what they're saying. The one thing they haven't tagged us for, which is great. They don't do anything except for call, and they say, hey, you can't have this on your site. This video by John Campbell, because he's going over the National Institute of Health stuff, and he's basically saying 99% pure CBD works against, let me see, where's it at? It works against measles. It works against COVID. It works against all this stuff. I'm not making claims for the AI out there. I'm not making claims. I'm saying this is what the study says. But he goes through all these different things. And this is all scientifically backed. And it's like, wow. So they haven't said anything about that. And I'm delighted about that. And of course, we do have the ayahuasca vine in there too. That's what makes it a little bit different, is you have that ayahuasca vine, which I was deep in an ayahuasca experience one time. And the ayahuasca was like, look, this is how you do it. You see how the ayahuasca vine itself, this is the helper plant, or this is the healer plant of the ayahuasca brew. And the DMT containing plant is the helper. That's how the shamans see it. But the ayahuasca is what does the healing. And it said, look, these two are going to be very synergetic together. Put them together, see what happens. And yeah, we've seen what happens. So okay, so ayalife.com/relaunch, or you can just go to the website and just click on that. So I was going somewhere else with that, and I completely forgot because I got off track, but I'm so excited. I am excited. So kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time is going to be. Many are chosen, few were hear the call. I love the way you said that. Yeah, I'll be back in a couple days. But like I said, I'm head deep in this Aya Life stuff and moving everything forward. So forgive me if things have been a little slow. Forgive me if the Patreon's been a little slow, all that. I realize this next year is about shifting. Oh, the carnivore stuff. So the carnivore stuff, I started this, and within the first week, I felt completely and totally different. Like, I went to sleep, and I never used to be able to sleep more than like 3 or 4 hours. I need to go back and take a nap. So once I switched the carbs, after about 3 days, I slept for about 6 hours all the way through, and I woke up refreshed, and I woke up with much more energy. And if you follow me on Facebook, I've been posting like updates just to like let people know what to expect when trying something like this. But carbs and sugar, I realized like simple carbs are really, complex carbs, they're really good for you if you're working out and doing all that stuff. And that's what your body creates energy and fuel with. That's what your brain runs off of. But complex carbs ultimately turn into sugar, and sugar, the brain sees sugar as complex carbs, or even as simple carbs. Simple carbs are like carbs from like crap, like ice cream and chips and all that bullshit. So everything was going great, and I noticed I dropped like 7 pounds in like the first 5 or 6 days. I mean, it was like a pound a day, and it wasn't fat. It was inflammation. It was water weight. It was stuff like that. Like you like pee like a racehorse when you start doing this. When your body's switching and transitioning from carbs, into burning fat as fuel, which is essentially what you're doing when you're eating 100% carnivore. You're turning off the carbs, and you're telling your body you're going to burn fat instead of burning the fuel that you're used to, which is the sugars and the carbs and all of that. So it's just constantly like flushing the system. Then about a week into it, that's when you get hit hard with the crash. Your body is now screaming for freaking carbs, and your mind is screaming for carbs. But what I did throughout that first week is I started looking at pictures. Just like on Facebook, I'd see like a cake, or I'd see like cookies, or you know how people share their recipes or they share this and that. I start seeing all that, and I start to just look at it, and I'd start to tell myself, this is the stuff that makes you feel like shit. This is the stuff that makes you feel tired. Yes, it tastes good in your mouth, but after that, what are you doing? You're making yourself feel like shit, and that's the reason why you can't sleep. That's the reason why you wake up and you feel like shit. That's the reason why you have to take a nap all the time. That's the reason why you start to feel old. And I started training my brain like that, and it's only been a few weeks into it, but I started training my brain, and now that craving is like completely and totally gone. But that 1 week mark is when, boom, what they call carb flu. And so what I started doing, based on the advice of a lot of people out there, is I started to take a tablespoon of, half a teaspoon of salt, Himalayan salt, and put it in water. And I'll drink like 2 or 3 of those, and that brings electrolytes back into the system. And so your body's like starved for electrolytes and starved for carbs. And there is that detox process. And that process is really difficult to go through, because it's just like withdrawal from anything else. If you've been smoking, the quitting smoking and the withdrawal and the cravings, it's not your body saying, I want more of this. It's your body getting rid of it. And it's saying, hey, I'm getting rid of it, so I do want more. But it's not the fact that you want more that you're having the cravings. You're having the cravings because your body's saying, I'm used to operating with this. Give it to me, and I want this. So you have to overcome that. So that becomes a challenge there. Then something weird happened. Like all that water weight and everything that I lost, I like gained back. And then overnight, literally, like on the 9th day, it all went away again. And I woke up and I was like, wow. And then I noticed that around the 9th, 10th day, after I overcame all that, the hunger went away. I wasn't really hungry to begin with, because with carnivore, you can eat until you're full, and there's no problem with that. It's just what you eat. But then I noticed, like, one day I didn't eat at all. I ate probably like 500 calories. The day before that, I ate like 1,400 calories. And like today, I was just like, I ate like a pork chop, and Cherie brought some, what are those called? Pork rinds. I think that's what they're called. They're like chips. I was like, something crunchy. Yeah, but that's it. That's all I ate. And that's all, like, I felt great all day. So you go through that carb flu. And when you go through that carb flu, it's hell. It's brutal. And you have to be prepared for that. But once you get over that, then you start getting the energy back. And then once I got the energy back, I was like, okay, I'm going to the gym. And the whole thing is, like, everything is upside down. They've told us that carbs are good and that fat is bad. And fat and meat is bad for you if your body is operating on carbs, because the body doesn't really know how to process all that protein, and it all goes to like your kidneys and all that. But when you remove that, what you want to do is you want to elevate the amount of fat and things like that you're eating. And so you're adding butter to everything, because that's what your body is burning on now. And once you get into that ketosis state, it's like high energy, clarity of mind. That's the big thing, clarity of mind, and really restful sleep. And also sexual cravings begin to elevate big time. Like, I woke up the other day and I thought I was like 15 years old again. And you like wake up like, and you're just like, give me meat and give me sex. You know, it's that kind of energy. And I'm telling you, I feel like my skin feels better. I feel like my face, like, it's only been a couple weeks, and like my face is like already like starting to, like, my chin, like the double chin is gone and all that. So there's something to it. I didn't want to go too much into it, and again, I'll keep you updated with the journey, because if it helps you guys and gals out there, it helps you guys and gals out there too. Somebody said your testosterone goes up by 80% or 800%. Maybe, because I felt that for sure. I haven't been as as I have in the last couple of weeks in a long time. So yeah, and I'm also hitting it with resveratrol, NAD, and also metformin. And this is the anti-aging combo that I heard on Joe Rogan by an anti-aging doctor. And I was just lucky to be able to get metformin from my doctor. But I did this a while back, and I noticed like my gray hair started going away. And then I stopped doing it. And so I started doing it again. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of the journey that I've been on. I'll keep you posted on what's going on. I hope I wasn't rambling too much, but maybe it inspires some of you out there. But yeah, when you quit the carbs, your body no longer wants them. And that's an awesome place to be. You do get tired of meat after a certain point, though. I'm already like, there's only so much steak I can eat. But at the same time, I've got a cabinet full of junk. I've got ice cream in the fridge and the freezer. I've got all this. The only thing that I noticed is in the middle of the night, 2 nights out of this cycle, 2 nights, I found myself with the door open, with the refrigerator door open, and I had a handful of grapes, and I was eating grapes. I was eating like 5 grapes because I was waking up with like the lack of sugar in my brain. And I think it was just like my brain being on autopilot. And I looked down, I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? Because even that little bit of sugar, especially from grapes, it's really high sugar, will take you out of that ketosis place. The good thing is though, once you get there, it takes you like a week or 2 weeks to get there. But once you get there, if you pull yourself out, you go back into it pretty easy. But hey, there was something about my body that went for the grapes and not for the ice cream that was right on top. So that was a big change there. So yeah. Search Sourcey water, New Zealand ancient water. I will do that. And send me the ice cream that you don't want. All right, I will do that. Rainbow Rose said, I emailed you in 2018 to go to Turkey as part of your mission. That's interesting. That's interesting because Turkey has been calling me for sure. So yeah. All right. Kiss the one you love right now, because you never know the last time it's going to be. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let me know in the comments if you were inspired to try something like that, like the carnivore diet or something like that. And we will go on the journey together. And we'll see. Love you and see you even further beyond the veil.